Hi, everyone. I hope that you found the peer review process on the essay drafts to be helpful. And of course, today you should make any necessary revisions to your essay, and then your final draft of the essay will be due by tonight, as well as a reflection. And of course, let me know if you have any questions as you work on revising and polishing your draft. So then, as soon as you've submitted your final draft of the essay, you'll need to get started with Module 3, exploring complex problems. And as the module's title indicates, we'll be considering how to explore complex problems and also what resources are available to us to aid us in that exploration. And so first, on our presentations and demonstrations page, we have another presentation by my colleague, Dr. C. And once you've watched that, take a few minutes to go through the Introduction to Problem-Solving Skills website, which I have linked to on Canvas as well, on that same page on Canvas. And the site takes you through different steps and scenarios for solving problems, which might be helpful to you as you are applying the ideas to the complex problem that you have chosen to focus on for this term. So then, of course, the first assigned readings from Module 3 are not actually readings, but they are actually TED Talk videos. So I do find TED Talk videos to be very enjoyable. It's nice to get a change of pace to get to watch something instead of reading something. But once you've watched those 3 videos, we'll have a discussion activity due by Thursday night, in which you'll be drawing from what you've learned from those TED Talks, and particularly regarding problem solving, and then of course apply what you've learned to considering your own chosen complex problem. And of course, remember to respond to classmates on that discussion as well. And then on Friday, we'll have my mini lecture on peer-reviewed resources. And of course, you're probably more familiar with peer review as referring to a class activity, like what we just did. But it's also a process that a lot of academic work goes through, a lot of academic published work. So you want to make sure you take some time to read through my mini lecture on peer review, and then we'll follow that up with a short quiz about peer-reviewed resources that's due by Friday night. And of course, peer-reviewed resources will provide us with reliable, relevant information. And of course, in an academic setting, peer review means something that has been submitted and reviewed by scholars in the field for accuracy, also for trustworthiness, for worth, that is in the sense of it being worthwhile to read and worthwhile to consider and publish. And so I published some peer-reviewed articles, and in those cases, the reviewers, they were unknown to me. I didn't know who they were. And of course, they would read and provide feedback to my work, and they didn't know who I was because I didn't have my name on the submission that they received. And so that was what we call a double-blind peer review. And of course, in many cases, authors are asked to revise and then resubmit their article or publication before it's actually officially accepted for publication. And that has happened in my experience as well. So it's a good way to help verify the accuracy of what's being presented. And of course, but not every source that you're going to read is peer reviewed. In fact, most sources that you probably encounter on a daily basis are not peer-reviewed. So, for example, newspaper articles are not peer-reviewed, magazine articles, blogs, a lot of website content not peer-reviewed. So a lot of those types of things might be looked at by an editor, but that's not the same process that I'm describing here with peer review. So you should, of course, always ask yourself, why should you trust something that you read, something that you hear? So, for example, if you read a news story, which again is not peer-reviewed, a news story about a medical study that appeared, and maybe that medical study was peer-reviewed, you might not want to just trust that news article. You might locate the original source and read that as well. And actually, I've actually had some times where I've done that, where I went and found this original study that a newspaper article was representing, and found that the newspaper article had either misread or completely misinterpreted the study. So it's always good to go to the original source when possible. And of course, peer-reviewed sources are usually much more reliable and accurate for a lot of these types of things. So then, of course, once you complete that mini lecture and then the quiz on peer-reviewed resources, please do take a few minutes to read through my mini lecture about developing a bibliography and also some research strategies. So for Saturday, you'll be developing an annotated bibliography. So I hope that my notes will be helpful for you as you're preparing for that. And of course, as I said, so Saturday, June 7th. So sorry for another Saturday, June due date. There will be an annotated bibliography due of sources that you might use for your final class project on the complex problem that you identified earlier in the semester. So although many of us probably associate bibliographies with more academic writing, especially things that we do for classes, bibliographies are also actually useful outside of the classroom environment. So a bibliography provides really a list of resources for an audience. And so you should find resources that are relevant to the complex problem that you've identified at the start of the term. And in particular, consider sources that represent different perspectives, the different complexities of the issue. So the ones that might help you understand the complex problem, as well as possible solutions to the problem, representing a range of ideas. So you will be, of course, drawing from those resources and perhaps more for your final multimodal video presentation on your complex problem at the end of the class. So, of course, make sure you, as you're finding those sources, make sure you meet the minimum requirement for peer-reviewed resources. There are a certain number that need to be peer-reviewed sources, and if you're not sure if the source is peer-reviewed, you can always check with me. So, especially if you're new to figuring out what a peer-reviewed source is, it's okay to double check with me. I'm happy to help out with that. And of course, as I do note in the instructions on Canvas, you should always plan on finding and reviewing more sources than you really need. That way, it's easier to make sure you've got the best sources. Sometimes the first so many sources you find are not necessarily the best sources. So finding more sources than you need can help you make sure that you find the best sources in the time that you have. And then, of course, in addition to including a full citation for each of those sources, you can use either MLA or APA format. Either is fine. So in addition to those citations, though, you'll want to include an annotation for each source. And an annotation is about 3 to 4 sentences. And those are basically shortly describing what the source is about and also how you think it might be helpful for you as you focus in your complex problem. And then on Monday, we'll be having a discussion activity in which you'll be revisiting your chosen complex problem. And I'm going to share some more details about that later because, again, I got this announcement long enough. So I'm going to leave it at that. But if you do have any questions as you finish with your final draft of the essay and then get started with Module 3, make sure you do let me know.